Hey everybody, this edition of Lionheart Radio is brought to you by the world's first creatine coffee. Each scoop is a full cup of a Colombian Arabica bean coffee infused with 5 grams of a creatine monohydrate. Now here's the deal, guys. A lot of people have differing opinions about creatine, and unfortunately a lot of really shitty supplement companies have tried to sell it to kids that want to get big, and they package it as some kind of steroid alternative, and they tell you if you cycle it and if you stack it, then you'll gain a bunch of muscle mass. And at the end of the day, none of that is true. What is true is that it's one of the most studied and beneficial supplements on the market for strength, recovery, and endurance. So whether you're a runner, whether you are a strength athlete, or whether you're somebody that wants to enhance cognitive function and just feel healthier in everyday life, a pharmaceutical-grade creatine monohydrate is going to help get you there. Go to www.creatinecoffee.com to learn what all the hype is about. And now, on to the show. All right, welcome back to Lionheart Radio. I'm your host, Rick Alexander, founder of Lou Aviv, based in San Diego, California. And today I am joined by James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, multiple world record holder. Recently, I think the best way to give the audience an idea about kind of who you are and how you live your life would be when I reached out to you first to set up this interview. And your response was, I would love to. I'm going to be climbing Kilimanjaro on my mountain bike. And I'll get back to you. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
I actually screenshotted that email because I'm going to post it.
That's right.
So I know you have multiple world records, and I know we're going to definitely talk about the 50-50-50 that you did in 2015. And in 2012, you set a world record for Ironmans completed in a year, completing 30 races in 1 year in 11 different countries.
Yeah, that's right.
And I know the first year you accidentally set a world record for, was it most half Ironmans?
Yeah, we just went out to try to raise money for building dams in Africa, and just was plugging away on the year, just doing the events, and ended up contacting Guinness, and just by chance had set a standard for how many races were done in a year, and established the first Guinness World Record, which was just accidental. And so then it was just a launching platform for us to do what I really wanted to do, which was the full Ironman world records and then the consecutive Ironmans.
Okay. So I think it would be really easy for people that are listening to this interview and see what you've done and see your world records and, automatically disassociate themselves from you because you're an elite level athlete. And a lot of times it's easy for us to be like, well, of course, if all you have is nothing but time, you can train, all these different things that people, make up essentially in order to, basically not live their most fulfilled life. But in order to dispel notions and kind of give the listener an idea of like who we're talking to, I just want to kind of go back to the beginning and like where your, race career or athletic career even started out.
I guess if you go all the way back, my athletic career started, in junior high school. I picked up wrestling, and I was doing all the sports, but really gravitated towards wrestling. And then wrestled all the way through junior high and high school and a couple years post high school, and just learned a ton of lessons about how to be mentally tough and how to work hard. And then, you kind of get into normal life, and I didn't even know triathlon existed or what it was. Didn't know how to swim or anything, but really it just started super innocently with a 4-mile fun run with my wife. And if I'm being honest, I struggled through that 4-mile fun run. And so I'm the furthest thing from a natural born elite athlete. I've really had to work hard at it. And like I said, it truly did start with me stumbling through 4 miles on Thanksgiving with my wife and being beaten by most of the field. It was me at the back of the pack, just trying to figure it out. And then just one thing led to another, and I really found a passion for it. And what was interesting for those that don't know what the 50 is, it's I did 50 Ironmans, 50 days in 50 states. And when I came off of that, everyone was like, oh, it was just, there's something genetically different about you.
Right.
And so I got contacted by a couple different companies, and they wanted to do some studies and things on me. And I was like, yeah, let's find out why I'm so able to do these unique things. And I was truly disappointed when the results came back, because they just said, well, you're completely normal. Yeah. And one of the things they can't test is the size of your heart,
yeah,
and how much drive you have, and then how much mental toughness you have and have developed over the years. And so as far as like relatability to the average person, I am completely relatable, or hopefully people do. I mean, I'm a family man. I've got 5 kids. I work full time. I just have an intense drive and a passion for living life and going after what I, seek what I deem as adventures.
Yeah. So that first 4 mile, was that post high school, obviously post college?
Yeah, I was married a couple years. I had two young daughters. I think 2 and 1 at the time. And then my wife was just like, "Hey, let's go try this." And I was like, "All right." She ran a lot, and I was just kind of getting into life, and just I was working in the golf industry. I really like golf. Another mentally tough game. I find myself in all these mentally grinding, grueling sports, but yeah, and so we went out and we did that, and it was Thanksgiving, I remember, and I coughed the whole day, and I was miserable and laid on the couch, and my wife lovingly told me I was pathetic.
After the race?
And just all day after I went pouting around all day.
Yeah.
And she signed me up for the Salt Lake City Marathon without kind of consulting me at all. She signed us both up, and she was like, "You better start running because we're doing a marathon in 4 months."
Wow, that's a good woman right there.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what kick-started this whole thing. And so, yeah, it started with a 4-mile fun run and then an involuntary marathon.
So in 2011, when you set your first record for the most half Ironman distances done in a year, what was kind of the catalyst to think like, okay, let me kind of start raising money for something? Or was it raising money that first got you into it, or was it just, hey, I'm going to do these, I should probably have, do them for a reason?
No, I was working for my father-in-law's charity, which is In Our Own Quiet Way, and we do a lot of work in Africa. We've got some women's groups, some orphanage feeding centers. We build full-size concrete dams to help with the villages there. And so I wanted to by then I was really in love with triathlon and the whole sport and the atmosphere around it, and I loved the people, and so just with doing the work for the charity, I was like, man, I got to think of a great way to gain more exposure to benefit these people, and then so I just started doing as many half Ironmans as I could, and I called the project the Try and Give a Damn project.
Nice.
And it was in 2010. And I just started racing every single weekend, and it started to gain attention, and we were able to build 2 dams over there and have a huge impact, which was super meaningful. And I was like, man, if that worked for half Ironmans, we could raise money for full Ironmans. And so we did it again 2 years later and did 30 Ironmans through 11 countries and just had a blast.
And that was a world record as well.
Yeah, that one we broke the previous world record. And just had so many cool experiences in that year. Learned a lot about how to do these big adventures and have it impact different charities. And so right near the end of the 2012 journey, I was just like, man, I don't feel like this was it. I don't feel like I pushed myself physically and mentally. And my wife was like, no, we're good. She's like, let's just go back to normal life.
Yeah.
And I just had this really deep feeling that there was, something else that we needed to do, or the impact we could have could be bigger. And then so, and with my 5 kids, I just kept looking around and going to the schools and realizing that there's just a massive problem with childhood obesity. And I don't blame the kids at all. I mean, to be honest, it's actually our parents. I mean, it's our fault as parents.
Sure.
Because every single day I did a presentation on the 50. We did a 5K to raise money for the kids, and every single day I would say, the kids are a product of our environments.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. The kids, they're a product of what's around them.
Well, it was crazy because I love watching the NBA, and this is kind of a tangent, but it's obviously March Madness right now when we're recording this, and Frank Martin, he's the South Carolina head basketball coach, and I don't know if you saw his what he said about kids nowadays. He said, it makes me sick to my stomach when I hear people say that kids have changed. Kids haven't changed. Kids don't know anything about anything. We've changed as adults. We demand less of the kids. We expect less of kids. We make their lives easier instead of preparing them for what life is truly about. We're the ones that have changed. And that just really resonated with me and the mission that we've been on. And just as far as like, look, we've had kids, and everybody's calling this generation entitled and they don't know how to work hard. And
yep.
And we're pointing the finger at these kids, and man, they're just kids. I've got 5, and I watch them intensely, and man, they emulate everything we do as adults. And what they've learned and the entitlement they've learned is because we've manufactured that. I
Right.
hate to say it, and I'm not pointing fingers. I'm as guilty as anybody else. I mean, I try to do the best job that I can, and we're all learning as we do this. But man, it's tough to point the finger at these kids and the massive obesity problem that these kids are having. I mean, it's on us as parents to reverse that trend and educate ourselves. And I know this is a complete tangent, and I don't even know what the original question was, but yeah,
No,
it's
all
on
good, yeah.
it's on us, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think on some level, it's every generation is going to, I don't know, look down, talk shit, however you want to put it, about the generation that comes after them as far as work ethic and things like that. I think it's like almost cool to talk about like the entitlement of the millennial generation. But yeah, I completely agree with you. It's like from a very topical perspective, it's easy to look at that and say, these people are lazy or overweight or obese or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, they're just, they're growing up in the world that we created. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
So just to give the listeners a little bit of an idea, because we have a decent amount of endurance athletes on the podcast and coming up, and we also have a lot of strength athletes and CrossFitters. So to give the listeners a little bit of an idea of what 2012 looked like for you. So you set the world record for 30 full distance Ironmans, which is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and then a full marathon run.
Yep, correct.
What was the record before you set it?
I believe it was 20 or 22.
Okay. So you smashed it, and then you smashed it again.
Yeah. I didn't want to just like go out and just do one more.
Yeah.
I really wanted to not just do it, but I wanted to. Whenever I go do something, I don't want to just like, I just barely reached my mark. I want to really exceed it, and I want to set a new standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so my point was like, yeah, you finished that, and you're like, oh, that's not enough. I think for most people, that's it's definitely more than enough.
Yeah.
But in 2011, and I don't mean to pry too much, but I think one of the very first things that people are going to think is if you Ironman or triathlon is not a cheap sport.
No,
it's
no.
expensive. So.
Yeah.
In 2011, before you really got your start and built your name, and I know you have sponsors now, and we can talk about that a little bit later, but so 2012 was 30 races in 11 different countries. 2011 was the most. How many half Ironmans was in 2011? Do you remember?
That was 2010, and it was 22 halves in 30 weeks.
Okay, and so did you have trouble paying for all of these?
Yeah, man, it was extremely difficult. What people lack, I believe, is creativity in what they're trying to do. And a sense of networking or leveraging. And I coach triathlon, and I have for many years. And I also, I'm willing to work for whatever. And so I would go around and I would trade. I would say, hey, what can I do for you? What job do you need done in order to take care of this race entry fee? Or what can I do to have you let me use your air miles to get this flight out?
To sponsors, you mean?
Yeah, no, to just friends and family and whomever.
Okay.
When you do your first rodeo, sponsors, I mean, there's so many guys out there that are trying to do just fun adventures, and they want sponsors to fit the bill for it. And really, sponsors can get that stuff for free with ambassador programs and social media and all this stuff. So they're very unwilling to pay for this type of thing nowadays, just because it's so prevalent and everybody's asking. And so I just said, you know what, I'm gonna use the products and everything that I use, and I'm gonna show them that I use their products and I can be successful. And so that was my first, form of attack was, okay, I'm gonna do this, and hopefully that they see that I love their products and do it, and then they'll get on board eventually. And I really stayed consistent with that and stayed loyal to the products that I used. And then over time, they were like, oh man, this guy really does use our stuff, and he is really making a name for himself. And so I didn't come out initially and be like, hey, do me, put my hand up. And that's what a lot of people do nowadays, is they just like ask. And they're like, hey, sponsor me. And the sponsor's like, well, how much exposure do you have? They're like, well, I don't have one yet, but I'm going to get one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just the complete opposite approach. I mean, you have to, the best thing that I can think of is, the old movie Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. It's not they will come and then build it.
Right.
And so, again, it's the unfortunate entitlement era. where they're just like, no, I'm going to go do this. I deserve for you to to sponsor me or help me out. And we literally had to bootstrap. I mean, what people don't realize is, yeah, I'm sponsored now and I do this for a living, but they don't see the decade worth of bootstrapping, creativity, lifting, just heavy lifting that we did in order to get to this point. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I believe that we did a lot of right things and we did a lot of wrong things. But one thing that we did do was we worked hard, we went all in, and we did whatever it took in order for us to accomplish the goal that we wanted to accomplish on our own agenda. And so I think that was one of the keys to our success was really in those initial years. I realized, look, I've got to prove myself. I've got to go out there and do the work and make it happen. And so I couldn't, it was the triathlon community that helped me with homestays, and we worked through tri groups and social media and just did whatever we could. And people really helped us out because it was for, we were raising money for the charity in Africa and then childhood obesity. And every year that we did one of these things, it was always amazing to me how the tri community just came out and embraced what we were doing. It's always super humbling when that happens. And I can't, nothing great that ever happens is ever done on your own. There's always a massive team behind you. Right. And my team truly is the endurance community.
Yeah, I think that's worth pointing out for everybody is that with technology, with social media, with everything that we have today, if you're creative enough, the world will bend to what you want it to be. There's always a way to figure that out. But the problem I think that a lot of people run into is, like you said, is that they're just, hey, I want to do this. It's really cool. Sponsor me. Whereas, you kind of took the approach that applause waits on success. So you put in the work, you did what you had to do. And then, over time, the world caught up to what you were doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost to the point nowadays where everyone's trying to do the social media thing and do the blogging thing and do all these things. And they really do. They have to build it first. And they're trying to do it backwards, and it just takes time. It takes patience. It takes going all in, and it takes just doing the work. A lot of people will try this or they just say, I'm going to start this website and I'm going to quit my job and this and that. I'm like, whoa, don't quit your job. What you don't realize is it's going to take 5 years to even catch a little bit of momentum, and you've got to have a 10-year vision for this thing. But what I challenge people to do all the time is go, okay, look, if I was to snap my fingers and we fast forwarded 10 years and you had 250,000 followers and 5 sponsors, would you be happy? And they're like, yeah, dude, that would be so cool. I'd be stoked with that. I'm like, okay, great. This is what it's going to take. And just be happy for that result then. If it happens sooner, awesome. But you've got to realize that the work that it takes to put in to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I just discussed with a previous guest, actually, which is you have to be okay with the process, because if you focus on the result, you focus on the goal, even when you do attain it, it's so short-lived that you're going to end up unhappy. So get comfortable with the process, and then when the goals come, that's just the cherry on top.
Yeah, one of my quotes that I love is if you're tired of starting over, stop quitting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what people tend to do is they try something and it doesn't work in the first 90 days or a year, and they quit on it and they try something else and it doesn't work in the first, whatever. So it's just a matter of really picking one thing and sticking with it and becoming an expert at it.
Yeah, and what I think part of the problem is that the people that do quote unquote make it, they grind for 10 years and then they start getting some real traction and then they're an overnight success.
Yeah, exactly.
10 years of building behind the scenes.
Yeah, I love the quote, a high tolerance for monotony is a decidedly underrated superpower. And it's because people just, what people need to realize is you have to become so good at the basics and doing the smallest of tasks over and over and over again to where it truly is monotony. But, in terms of physical tasks and mental toughness, when things get hardest, they have to be the easiest to execute. You have to be able to execute on the simplest of terms. And that only comes from experience and doing that high tolerance for monotony, because then it is your superpower when things get the toughest, because you're in a position to where it's like, oh, this is second nature for me. I've done this a million times. I'm going to dumb this down to the very, very basics so I can survive the next 60 seconds in this 10-hour journey that I'm on and get to the next part of part of the process. And so I think that's what people have to get comfortable with, just doing the basics and the basics and the basics, just thousands and thousands of hours to get where they want to get to.
Right. Do you think that mental fortitude do you think it comes innate, or do you think it can be fostered in somebody?
Definitely fostered. There's going to be a certain amount of genetics, or I'm just born with it or whatever. And then that person can, if they foster it, can explode it even further than that. Here's another quote that I love is, I truly believe that hard work can beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. And so someone that wants to really develop that skill of mental toughness and just really works hard at it is going to outperform the person that has the talent and doesn't put anything towards it. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal, dude, 7'5", 300, 400 pounds, and was a dominating force in the NBA. Mm-hmm. But had he not worked hard, Allen Iverson would have been more successful than him because he worked twice as hard.
Yeah.
And so being born with it, it doesn't mean anything unless you develop it, and you can develop it, any skill set. You may have a limiter at some point, but I don't believe it's enough to hold anybody back. I think you can develop, for sure, mental toughness, and it just takes practice, and you have to intentionally put yourself in shitty situations to where you develop that skill set over time.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think part of it too is putting your hard work into a place that resonates with you and who you are. For example, you clearly have a real love for endurance and triathletes, so working hard in that environment makes sense to you. And when things aren't going right, it's a lot easier to push through those hard times, I think, if you're really working in a place that resonates with you and it's kind of aligned with who you are and what you want for your life. Yeah,
for sure. Like here's a great example of mental toughness. So obviously the 50-50-50 was the hardest thing that I've ever done, and I had to go to the well and deep into the well many, many times, deeper than I ever thought.
I'm sure.
But because I did that, it has allowed me to do other things that would be seemingly impossible, but has allowed me to enjoy them or treat them more as an adventure. We were climbing Kilimanjaro last week on mountain bikes, and one of the guys that was with us, it was probably the hardest thing he's ever done. And he was just like, what did you learn? What did you learn on this mountain? And I'm like, dude, I'm just having a hell of a good time. Like, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. And he was having to go to the depths of the well to just get the next pedal stroke. And yes, it was hard, but because I had done something harder, it allowed me to enjoy that adventure for what it was. And I think that's what we should all strive to do something just so ridiculously hard that it makes a lot of other things that we're doing seem easier and they become more enjoyable. So I didn't have this incredible suffer fest out there on the mountain, and I was able to appreciate everything around me that was going on, and I was able to take in the culture a little bit better and able to appreciate the views and the sunsets and the sunrises and all the cool things that were going, because I didn't have to go deeper into the well. I was pulling from previous experiences that I've had in my life, and that just goes to doing hard things intentionally, and over time you develop an appreciation for what is hard, and you can enjoy them even more. So hopefully he will do other things in his life and be able to pull from those experiences to where they won't be as difficult for him, and he can now enjoy them also.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think too, something you hit on right there is there's also something to be said when you're suffering for like human powered movement. And I don't know what it is really, and I can't necessarily speak to it too much, but I know last year I was running the Santa Barbara 100, and like 60 miles into it, I came to a clearing on a mountain, and like without a doubt the most gorgeous view I've ever seen. And had I driven there instead of run all night to get there, it would have been a much different experience, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So going, and I definitely want to get into the 50 thing, but when you were saying you were raising money, so for building the dams in Africa, like that makes sense to me. But I think anybody listening to this, because we're an active lifestyle podcast, can really empathize and really support the idea of raising money for childhood obesity. And I'm just curious, when it comes to, it's such a deep, complex issue. So when it comes to raising money for it, I'm just curious, like what your approach is, like where that money should go or is best used, or.
Yeah, and I certainly didn't want to start a 501c3 myself, and I didn't want to be responsible for making those choices. And so we did a ton of research prior to going out on the 50 on who we really wanted to align with. And I saw just a brilliant TED Talk video by Jamie Oliver And he was one of the first guys that I had seen that was like really talking about the elephant in the room, and he was kind of brash about it. But it's kind of my personality, and I loved that approach. And so we started to work with the Jamie Oliver Foundation, and we passed all the money through that we raised during the 50 onto them, and then they use it for their school lunch programs. They use it for education and teaching kids how to cook and appreciate food and all these different things. And so I certainly didn't want the responsibility of how to use the money. And so I believe we partnered with a really great charity. They're doing, they've got a lot of experience in it, and they're passionate about it. And so we just did a straight pass through onto them. We linked directly to their site, and all the donations just went to them, benefiting the work that they were doing.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think so. They kind of came at it from multi-prong approach as far as education, application. Which,
Yeah,
and you have to, I think, because like we said, it's such a complex issue.
it is, and the hope also is that the parents get involved with the education process, because again, the kids are a product of these parents' environments, and it's our responsibility as adults to learn and then pass that information on to them. But ultimately, it's about us setting the best example of how to eat and how to be active, and because the kids, they take it in as a sponge. They watch us, and they want to be like we are.
Right.
And if we're just, sitting around doing nothing and eating garbage all day, then that's truly what they're going to end up doing, and it's just tragic.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a powerful why for someone like yourself as well, who actually has kids, and there's got to be no greater motivation than wanting them to grow up with a good example.
For sure. Yeah.
So you climbed Kilimanjaro on your mountain bikes, like we said. Had that been done before?
So nobody had. There'd been a couple people that had like wanted to ride down, and so they took their bikes all the way to the top and then rode down. Like there was a group there right before us. They carried their bikes all the way up, and then their goal was to ride from the highest point in Africa to the lowest point in Africa. And then so they were there kind of the week before we were, but we were the first ones that were kind of attempting to fully ride the whole way up and whole way down. And I made it all the way to the 15,500 camp, and then just made a decision even a few days before that I again wanted to enjoy the experience more than suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're above 15,500 feet, the oxygen is just so very difficult. And those last 4 miles that we had to cover had 4,000 feet of elevation gain in it. And I had my film crew there, and I had some friends there, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to enjoy these last 4 miles, and it really would have taken a Herculean effort that I wasn't prepared to put in, and I'm still not convinced that it's possible with the setup that we had on the bikes. You would almost have to fully custom build a bike from the ground up, and be really specific with the tire selection that you do, because that top section, Kilimanjaro is a volcano, and that top section is volcanic or scree,
Mm-hmm.
which is very, very fine. It's almost like a quicksand type rock, and it just absorbs the wheels. And because of the steep pitch, there was just no latitude, for forgiveness on what we were doing. And the amount of effort it would take to move 10 feet, you would just have to sit there and recover, because there's just no oxygen. And so I was super, super pumped that I was able to pedal the very challenging terrain up to 15.5, and then just made a very conscious decision that I was going to take my bike the last 4 miles, and then just have a blast coming down. And so I did that, and I was super happy with it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Were you riding a 29er just on like the lowest ring, or?
So we've got what was called an Eagle cassette on the back, which is just monster, really, really big. And then we had they're called +1 tires, and so they're kind of in between a fat tire and a normal size or width wheel or rim. And then we were running 27.5s over the 29s. We thought that was going to be more versatile for all the different terrains. Because on Kilimanjaro, you go through 4 ecosystems. I mean, we went through rainforest, and then we went through kind of a desert, and then that volcanic scree at the top. I mean, so it was really, really diverse terrain. And so we thought that was going to be the best all mountain wheel. And Fazari bikes, they really did a great job setting us up on the best setup that we could with the time that we had. And the bikes performed awesome. I mean, they really did. We didn't have any problems with them. I mean, I crashed 4 times coming down pretty hard. and bent my derailleur on that last day coming down. But I was coming all down, and so I didn't need to shift into that big Eagle gear anymore. But it was just such a cool ride. I was really happy with the way everything transpired and the experience that I got to have.
Yeah, I bet. How was going down? I mean, what kind of speeds are you hitting?
It was sketchy as hell. We could only hit, I think I hit like 32 maybe on some of the sections that were a little bit wider open. But for the most part, I mean, it was just, navigating huge boulders and drop offs and through the rainforest, just massive cliffs and roots. And it's just really cool riding. Scared the hell out of me the whole way down. I think I crashing 4 times. I put a couple ribs out and both my shoulders were kind of not firing anymore by the time I got down. And I was definitely forearms and biceps were shaking from holding on so tight and white knuckling the whole thing. But just a really crazy ride down. We did it in 2 days. We took it a little bit slower because the film crew and the porters and everything couldn't go as fast as we could on bikes going down, and so we broke it into 2 days. We could have easily gone down in 1, but just broke it into 2 and just had a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah, that's epic. 2 days of downhill. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's fun.
The people that hike it, do they have one of the fold out bikes, or do they literally just shoulder their bike and hike it?
The porters will carry it for them, and so they literally they just, I mean, these porters are amazing. They would take our 40-pound packs and literally put it on top of their head and sprint up the mountain. It was some of the most crazy athleticism I've ever seen.
Yeah.
These porters just live on the mountain. I mean, our crew was 30 deep of porters, and they do everything from carry all of our gear and cook the food and bring the food and all the water and all the supplies, and they just did a remarkable job getting us all the stuff that we needed and us to the top of this the mountain's 20,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go up and down and carry all of our packs and just do unbelievable work. Again, nothing incredible or cool happens without a really successful and dynamic team. And Worldwide Trekking is who we used, and Dean Cardinal is just an amazing guide, and he puts together just a really cool staff. And like I said, there was over 30 porters that we had on the team, just because there's so many jobs and things to make that system flow and go. So it was really cool to watch it all unfold.
Are you still working full time?
So I coach full time. We have our coaching platform, Team Iron Cowboy, and so I coach full time on that with 4 other coaches. We've got about 200 athletes worldwide, and we're growing every day. I just finished writing my book, Redefine Impossible. And people can pre-order that right now. It comes out next month on IronCowboyBook.com. And we've got a cool VIP bundle on there right now. If you pre-order now, you can get a free viewing of the documentary that we had filmed of the 50. I'm full-time speaking. I mean, I'm speaking about twice a week.
Okay.
And then I'm full-time racing. I'm doing some really cool adventure races this year. I'm racing about 7 big races in 5 or 6 different countries. Just really, really busy, but really, really happy with what we're doing. And then obviously the family and 5 kids and keeping my wife happy and all these different things. And so we're going from sun up to sundown for sure.
Yeah.
But just doing really cool things and living the life that we'd hoped for.
And the talks that you give, are those based on your book, or?
Yeah, so really people are curious. People have heard that we did the 50-50-50, and they're like, holy, mind blow. I don't even understand. And so we go and I share the story of a lot of things that happened on there and what I learned and how you can apply it to your life and things like that. It's more of just sharing my adventure with people.
Sure.
And they just really love it. I mean, I speak everywhere from high schools to, junior highs and high schools and colleges to billion-dollar corporations. I mean, I spoke for Red Bull and Nike and Audi and Vivint and just these multi-billion-dollar companies and then just low budget, no money schools. And the message really resonates with everybody across the board. And I'm just having a lot of fun. People always ask me what's next. And this is really what's next is helping people to realize that they can be and do more, and that their minds and their bodies are capable of so much more than they can ever imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good, because I was going to ask you what's next.
Yeah.
So the 50-50-50. So you ran 50 Ironman, full Ironman distance triathlons in 50 states in 50 consecutive days.
Yeah, and these were our own events that we put on just because of logistics. We wanted to be
Yep.
able to control those. But every single day we covered 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 of biking, and 26.2 of running.
So we're gonna have Dean Karnassus on actually next month, and
Yeah,
he
Dean's a
did.
stud.
I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, Dean's a stud.
Yeah, he is, and but he did the 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the idea kind of stemmed from. I kind of take what individuals do with marathons and then attempt it with an Ironman. Just kind of a next level. And I had very candid conversation with Dean afterwards, and he was like, "Dude, I have no idea how you did what you did." He was like, "The 50 marathons was extremely challenging, both physically and logistically." And he was just very complimentary to what we were able to accomplish. And coming from that guy, I mean, that guy's just paved the way for someone like me, and he's kind of the grandfather of this type of thing. And so, it was almost like he was passing the torch on to a younger version of himself, which was super humbling. And we've become, email friends and whatnot. And I'd love to shake his hand one day, just because I'm incredibly grateful for the path that he's let out for guys like myself.
Yeah, and I think that also goes to show you why it's so important to, I guess, have your purpose, know your why, know why you're doing what you're doing, because when you see like some behavior like jealousy or anything like that, like it really goes to show you that you're not centered. So like he started this whole thing, like you said, the whole personal brand around an endurance athlete, like really making a full life out of it. So it's really cool to hear that he's like cool about you just kind of upping the ante.
I think he's reached a certain level of success, and he understands the law of abundance, and that there's so much out there,
Hmm.
and it truly isn't a crowded space. I mean, the more the merrier. I think the more people that we can get successful doing this type of things, the better it is, because that's more of an impact that we can have. And so, yeah, I love it. I mean, people contact me every single week with, "I want to do this. How do I do this? Can you help me?" And I'm constantly trying to help mentor people on this journey, and just helping them also be realistic about it, that look, this is a really cool path, but just realize that it does take a long time. And people don't realize that Dean did so many things before the 50 and so many things after as well. I mean, he's really done a great job at being consistent and going after things at just a completely different level.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely agree. Did any of your triathlons line up with like officially sanctioned Ironmans, or were they all, you guys put them all on?
Yeah, we had to put them all on, except for it did line up with one event in New York that we did. But it just, when there was an event on the East Coast, we were in the West Coast. When there was an
Yeah,
event in the West Coast, we were in the East Coast, and we couldn't physically get to that event, and really we didn't know. We just didn't have a crystal ball, and so we needed to be in control of start times, and anything that went wrong, we needed to be in control of that. And so if we were, confined by an actual event, it would have been detrimental. The other thing too is in 2012, when we did the 30 Ironmans, we were raising money for charity. People that are doing an official event on their day, they've put a lot of work, and deservedly so. That day is about them.
mm,
And so
yeah,
I found that it's not the best, platform for raising money. When we did our own events, it was about the raising of the money. It was about the foundation. It was about that, and we could control all of that. And it wasn't about everybody else's day. It was about this.
right.
And so we intentionally didn't want to do it with official events, because it was too confining, and they had their own agendas. And we wanted it to be about our agenda and raising money for the Jamie Oliver Foundation.
Okay. Oh, so with the 50-50, you did this, you raised money for that as well, the Jamie Oliver Foundation.
Yeah, that was when we
Okay.
started doing it. And we did people could come and join me for any part of my day, but we really encouraged people to come out and donate and run 5K with me. So every night at 7 o'clock, I would circle back, and regardless of what mile I was on my marathon, I would stop, and then we would all gather. We would do an official race, and we would do a 5K as a group. And then I would, depending on how many miles I had left in the day, I would go out and I would finish sometimes 5, sometimes 20,
Hmm.
sometimes 15 miles left to go after that public 5K.
Oh, that's gotta
And
hurt.
that, yeah, it did. And a lot of people, it was really, really cool, because there was always individuals from the 5K, or individuals that had been with me the whole day in that state, that was like, yeah, we're going to finish this off with you. And so what was super cool about the journey that I had is I was never alone. there was always someone or a group of people with me, and it ranged anywhere from 5 to 4,000 people. It was just a really, really unbelievable summer that I'll obviously never forget. It's completely altered the path of our lives for sure, and hopefully the lives of many others.
Sure. Yeah, the logistics and the public relations behind the scenes must have been just a nightmare to coordinate all of that.
Yeah, and what's crazy is when we announced the 50, obviously nobody believed that we could do it, and we actually got a lot of backlash for it. And so all of the logistics and everything behind it was done by myself and just a very small crew that was supporting us. But I had to map out all 50 courses and plan them and get make sure that we were allowed to be there and that they were real roads and that we were able to swim in the locations we'd picked. And there was literally 2 years worth of planning. And that's the other big piece of advice to people that are wanting to do big adventures. I get people that contact me in March and they're like, hey, I was thinking about putting this big thing together in June. And I'm like, dude, yeah, great. June of 2019, bro.
Right.
You've got, if you're going to do something, if there's a takeaway today, and if you're going to do something and it's in order to get the recognition that you're wanting from this or to raise the funds that you want from this, dude, don't throw 3 months at it. Like you've got to prepare, give yourself, here's two things. Give yourself enough time to prepare properly, but give yourself an official start date, because if you don't, you'll continue to plan forever and you'll plan your way to a failure and you'll never get going. So basically, give the project the respect that it needs and really go after it. Give it 1, maybe 2 years of prep time, depending on the size of the project. That way you'll really know, you'll really invest in it. You'll really all go, you'll buy all in. And then you'll be committed to do the dang thing. Because I can't tell you how many people have contacted me and this is what I want to do and it's this big and this and that, and then they never end up doing it.
Yeah.
And so really give it the respect that it needs to plan, and then also give yourself a hard start date, so that you don't continue to plan forever and never execute. You can get into that trap as well.
Right. So during the 50, obviously 50 marathons, over 100 miles of swimming, like 5,600 miles of biking, I think, if my quick math is correct. How did you go about keeping your body running, as far as like, did you have to get body work, physical therapy, ART, supplements? I'm kind of curious about the physical side of it.
Yeah, all the supplements we took and everything we did was through Young Living Essential Oils, and they're not just an oils company. They have tons and tons of different supplements and proteins and everything that we used to give my body the best chance at healing and recovering. Aside from that, we were at the mercy of my chiropractor, Dallas Macon. He would come in every weekend when he could. And so he was kind of there 3 days and then gone for 4, and there for 3 days, gone for 4. And then my wife has worked on me for years, and really just when she had enough energy to muster up, she would work on my legs. And we just tried to do as much as we could. I sat in recovery compression boots every single night. I would fall asleep in those. I had to be consuming 10 to 12,000 calories a day in order to maintain my body mass. There was just so many little things that we had to do, and then we just had to I had to mentally just tell my body to hold on. And then every single day I was dealing with a new body crisis, and I just had to learn to manage that. But I was always grateful when something new would pop up and that I wasn't feeling the old one, because that meant that my body was continually working, evolving, and going through it. I was more concerned if something was lingering, because that's when we're dealing with an injury instead of the body adapting and growing and getting stronger. I tore my shoulder, I believe, on day 5 in California. And that was something that I dealt with the entire 50 days. Just incredible pain. Did a lot of the swims with one arm. And that was a definite injury that I had to deal with on a day in and day out basis. But everything else kind of, there was things that would continue to get worse or evolve or change. And I knew that was okay and manageable, and allowed me to keep going. But it became, just a mental battle to tell yourself to hold it together. And when the mind and the body become in alignment, which didn't happen for me until about race 30, which is crazy to think that 30 miles in now, my mind and my body are are syncing up.
Right.
I mean, how many people would have quit Ironman, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25?
Well, I'm thinking with the shoulder at 5, people are done.
Well, for sure. Yeah, exactly. And with everything that happened in between that people don't even know about, which is why the book and the documentary are so intriguing, because it truly tells the full story and the backstory behind what we did. But I mean, how many people would have quit on anything they're doing, and in my example, up to Ironman 30, with we're at the back half of it. And Ironman at that point became routine, where we had figured it out as a crew and everything. But it took us 30 full Ironmans in 30 days into this campaign in order to be gelling and everybody on the same page, to where my last 20 were my fastest and my final Ironman was an 11:32 Ironman.
Which is respectable in itself, if it were the only one you ran.
Correct. Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks.
Just to give people an idea of, so it's not this abstract number. I mean, if you're under a 12-hour Ironman, people consider that to be respectable, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know most of my athletes have a goal lifetime to break 12 hours.
Right. Exactly. For the final question, the Lionheart kicker is, if you could give one piece of advice and it were guaranteed that, everybody in the world would hear this piece of advice, obviously, everybody wouldn't follow it. You can lead a horse to water, but if you could give one piece of advice for everybody, what would it be?
Yeah, great question, and I love this, because the secret to success is simple, and it's also a hard pill to swallow. And it's just simply take action and do the work. And it's just do a lot of little things consistently over a long period of time. That will ultimately get you to where you want to get to. Taking action, doing the work, and doing it consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the consistency part is where people really need to focus. A lot of people start things, and then, like I said, 5 Ironmans in, you blow your shoulder out, that's game over. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, day one, literally, we got pulled over by the police in Hawaii in the middle of the night, and they told us to stop. We couldn't bike on those roads. And most people would have been like, sweet, I don't have to do the next 49 Ironman.
Right.
I'm out.
Not my fault.
I'm out.
Not my fault.
Yeah. I'm out. Please tell me I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm excited for this documentary. So for people that are listening and they want to follow along and support what you're doing, where can they do that?
Yeah, my 2 main platforms are Instagram and Facebook. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Iron Cowboy. And on Instagram, it's Instagram/Iron Cowboy James. You can also pre-order my book right now, Redefine Impossible, at IronCowboyBook.com. And when you go there, you can download the first chapter for free and kind of get a sense of what it's about. And then you can purchase the VIP bundle if you're interested in that, where you'd get the documentary for free and a couple other cool things.
Okay, very cool. And then for people that are interested in the coaching platform, are you taking on new clients or?
Yeah, we've got a window right now where we're taking on some. And if you go to teamironcowboy.com, you can learn about the program and enroll there and get to know us as coaches and kind of what our philosophy is.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on, James. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, Rick. It's been fun.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to Lionheart Radio. I hope that the information from today's show will make you fitter, happier, and healthier. For the show notes of this episode and every episode, head to www.lionheartrad.io. Yep, just like Lionheart Radio. And please, if you have the time, head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us to know that we're on the right track and delivering you reliable information and value. As always, feedback is welcomed. If you have any comments on the show or would like to suggest a guest, send me an email at rick@luavive.com. That's LUAVIVE.com. Thanks for your support, and we will see you next time.
Bitch, I feel good. Don't I look stupendous? My shine is so endless, and shit you can do to end this. Even when I'm dead, niggas still gon' bump that chip shit. Coke white, Escalade on cinches for you dipshits. So you won't forget this. Midwest nigga be the coldest. Cleveland